Hello again. Welcome back to Mapping Hour. This is episode 14, and we're excited to be back here with you. Remember, there's a login needed for working with the activities that we go through here, and if you need one, you can request it using the survey at the Mapping Hour homepage. Last time, wow, we had 3 different apps that we were working with back and forth. We'd been doing field data collection with Survey 123 for sessions 11 and 12. Last time working with Collector and Quick Capture and the attachment viewer to look at all kinds of interesting stuff. This time, we get to work with one application. This is the dashboard application, which is really a tool for interactive data analysis. Now, this dashboard application has been in the news, and you may have seen it, and you may have seen it many times. We're going to take a look at 3 different examples to begin with. And these are ones that are all dealing with the why we're here in the mapping hour and why you're locked up at home because of this coronavirus that leads to the COVID-19 illness. And so this is, well, let's just take a look at them. The first one probably is the one that you have seen most often. And this is a shot from this morning. This is a recent screenshot. And this dashboard is, you're accustomed to dashboards like this. Dashboards give you a lot of data. Now, if you back up and think about your car's dashboard, it gives you speed and gas tank and the temperature gauge and a little energy. And sometimes it's a line, sometimes it's a gauge, sometimes it's digital numbers that you're looking at. So you're accustomed to dashboard presenting related data in a variety of ways. And the same thing here. On the map, you're seeing dots that are scaled that show a number of cases. And on the left-hand side, you're seeing individual countries. And on the right-hand side, you're seeing deaths, which is tragic. And the number of cases tested in a particular area, whether it's the world or the US, and a chart at the bottom. But as you look more closely, you're seeing tabs on these, and they lead to other elements. Well, this is a very complex one. We'll take a little closer look at it at the end. There's another one that is actually a really exciting one that we'll take a look at the end. Exciting technologically, challenging in terms of economics and social impact. This one, you can see that it says near the top, one of 3,220. This is a county level impact exploration tied in. Well, we'll take a look at it at the end. This one is actually perhaps a little bit closer to all of us because this is looking at these impacts on schools. And this is actually one that I want to jump into with a little bit of a closer look at this live on the fly. So here I am in my browser taking a look at this dashboard, and you can tell that it's a live interactive map. Let me actually just expand this so that we're not distracted. It's a live interactive map, and this map has 3 different layers in it. It's got states, it's got school districts, and it's got schools. And so what you're seeing over on the left is looking at hybrid instruction and online instruction, and then closed. So what's the status of different school districts across the country. And gee, I wish I could just look in at one state. Tom, do you have a state that you want me to take a look at?
Oh, I love Minnesota. How about that?
Oh, a man after my own heart here. Let's just go in and explore. And so up in the top right, you can find a state, and I'm going to say Minnesota. And where'd everybody else go? They got filtered out. And so now you're looking at an individual state. Oh, they're not hybrid instruction. There's online. There's the number of closed districts. And of those 476, 461 have moved into an online environment. And then as you zoom in even closer, what you'll start to see is school districts are showing up, and even individual schools. And so now the legend has responded to the scale that we're looking at here. And I'm looking at different elements within. Oh, these are the states still. Oh, look over here. I'm seeing the individual schools all within Minnesota, or the districts, again, all within Minnesota. And so this is an integration of all of these contents. And so they're all related. It's only 3 different data layers, but it's a tremendous amount of content to go off and explore. Here, if we jump back to see the whole set of states, let me just say, I don't want to, let me just say, I'm just going to say, I can't remember how to select everybody. So I'll just say, let's just refresh this. Remember, you can't break any of this stuff. You just refresh it. Okay, let's build one of these. How about we build one? We're going to jump in and do that. So here I am inside the ArcGIS Online organization that is the home for the mapping hour, and we're looking inside my contents. And I have a set of data about the states. It is a feature layer, and it uses some 2010 census information and some 2019 data that's roughly similar have been added, and that's whole US data, just state level data. From that, I've made a map. And the map looks like it's shared with the organization and with a group. And the feature layer is shared with the organization and that same group. This is the mapping hour group. So I should be able to see both of these. Let's go take a look at the map. This is this population exploration map. Open it up, and what you're going to see is the 50 states. And if I click on any one state, I'm going to get a set of 2010 information followed by a slightly smaller set of 2019 information. Okay, I could go wandering around the individual states and click on them and take a look at each one, or I could make a whole series of maps, one after another, or we could create a dashboard. How do you make a dashboard? Let's see. I'm going to go to the Share button, and I want to create a web app. Now, we've been to this panel before. We did a configurable app. We did another one yesterday, the attachment viewer. Oh, Kylie did up here working with the web app builder, but ooh, I want to go over to the dashboard. We're going to make a dashboard. So I'm going to change the name here and call this is the dashboard app. I'm going to grab that and use it as my summary. And now it's saying share this app in the same way as the map. It's going to be shared with the organization and with the group. All right. Let's build it. And here's the dashboard. Now, what do I need to do with this? Well, I want to make sure that the map has some elements within it. I'm going to get help from Kylie and Joseph in filling this out. Tom is going to play the role of the teacher. The three of us, Kylie, Joseph, and I, are students working in a group, and only one of us at a time is going to own these resources or own particularly this dashboard. So we're going to collaborate on building out a dashboard. But the first thing that I want to do is to make sure that it has the default extent and bookmarks. I don't really need a legend built into it. We'll get that a little bit later. Oh, heck, I'll just put it in there for now. We can always come back and change it. Base map switcher. Yeah, let's let somebody be able to do that. Oh, absolutely. I want my zoom in and zoom out. General map actions, layer actions. I don't know anything that I want to do with those things right now. So I'm just going to say done and take a look at this. I've got a map. It's not really a dashboard yet, but I'm going to save my changes. Oh, over here, I've got my bookmarks, 50 states and 48 states. Oh, over here, I've got my legend. Oh, that's pretty nice. Oh, and there I've got my base maps. Okay, so that's up there in the corner. All right, what's this button do? Ooh. Look at all these things that I can put in here. Geez, my time is running out here, so I'm going to need some help to do this. Let's make sure that this is saved. Yep. So, Tom, if I want to send this off to Kylie to work on this, how do I do that?
Well, there's a
do
couple.
I need to stop sharing here?
Well, why don't you stop sharing and I'll show everybody what I can do to help facilitate this.
All right. Stop sharing.
And we're doing it this particular way because we don't want our 3 student users, Charlie, Kylie, and Joseph, to mess up each other's edits. So the way we're going to do this is actually switch ownership of the dashboard, Charlie's dashboard, so that each person has the ability to edit and work on this one at a time. So there are other ways to do this in ArcGIS Online, but we're going to just change ownership. So I'm looking at the item details page for Charlie's dashboard. Now, because each of those 3 have publisher permissions, they can make some changes, but see, I have administrator privileges. And I've got this fancy little link here above the owner line, so I can change owners. And Charlie, I think you told me it was supposed to go to Kylie for editing next. So I'm going to punch in Kylie's name, and we're going to select her, and then we'll hit save. And the page is going to reload, and it should show, and it does, shows Kylie's credentials at the top. So Kylie is now the sole owner of the dashboard. Charlie can't edit it any longer, at least not this version of it. So Kylie, are you ready?
Yep, I'm ready to grab it. Let me go ahead and share my screen. So I'm pretty excited about this because in my past life and development, Dashboard is actually one of the apps that I got to work on. So it's really exciting to me to see the different uses and see how we're working with it today, as well as where it's come as a product. And some of these dashboards are just so cool. So Charlie, you got us started, right? You stuck the map in there. You showed us some of those tools we're used to seeing, right? That base map icon, one we're used to, right? That little 4 squares. So it's similar look and feel. We can interact with our map the same way. But right now it's pretty much just a map. So the cool thing with Dashboard is all the other stuff we can add. Now, first I need to find this dashboard. And I have a bunch of content in here, and I can see it at the top. But I just want to show another way that I'd probably find it in a scenario like this. Since Charlie, Joseph, and I are a team for this class project, we've used a group to share this item. And so I can browse to that group by going to Groups and know that here we have a Mapping Hour group. And in this group, I'll be able to find the contents that's part of it. You can see some of the things we did yesterday, the faces and feet or the last episode, and you can see this new information. Now, one thing to notice is the map and the layer are still owned by Charlie because I don't need to edit those. I can make a dashboard with someone else's map. And here's that dashboard item. So I'm going to go ahead and open it. And since I own it, I can edit it. So I'm going to go ahead and start editing. And what you'll see is a similar view to what Charlie was just looking at. Because in reality, I kind of just became him. We took what he did and we passed that over to me and said, here, you have this and do the next part. So I can come in and I can see what he's set up here. There's his map, which I don't own, but I can put a shared map into a dashboard. I just need access to it, right, through those sharing methods in ArcGIS Online. And Charlie found some of the cool stuff. This plus button up here is how I add other, think of them as panels or sections into my dashboard. And there's quite a number of things I can do. Now, I personally find it very easy to get distracted in here and go play with things and just see what I can make. So I'm going to be good, though, and stick to the things my team has asked me to add in. So the first is just we want to have some information about this dashboard. We just want to give it a description. That can just be some text or rich text. Rich text just means it's text that you can do some formatting on. So we're going to go ahead and add that. And I get this whole configuration experience. Well, this looks kind of familiar. If you've used any websites where you add some information, there's the similar controls on your text. And I'm going to go ahead and actually grab some text that I have in another window so that you don't have to watch me type. And I'm going to paste that in. Okay, we've got a little bit of text in here now. This is the text that my team and I decided we wanted in our dashboard, and I'm just the one putting it in. And let's go ahead and add an image just to remind people of why dashboards are so cool. And in this case, we need to provide a link to an image. So I've found an image that I like. It's kind of about dashboards. So it's pretty big, and it fits over in there. And all right, it doesn't look amazing, but this is good enough for this purpose, right? I just want to show you, I can put this cool stuff in here. If I wanted, say I wanted to come up to my text, and instead of using little quote marks around this sentence, maybe I want to use some different formatting. I could make it italic. I could make it bold. I think that looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and go with that. All right, in here, that's pretty much all the configuration I can do. I can provide the content. I could play with the colors if I wanted. You know what? This is good for now. I'm going to go ahead and click done so that that's added. Okay, now I know that's a big image, but it's not really the key value that's in the dashboard right now. So I don't think it makes sense for it to take up so much of my screen. I'd really rather also see the map. Maybe I also don't want it over here. So let's see what I can do to get this to look nice, because dashboards are a presentation tool. They are communicating information, and how I design it and how I lay it out is going to help the reader use it successfully. So I can see, oh, if I hover here, I can grab this bar. I could go like that. Well, that makes it even more useless, right? Let's go back this way. Okay, I could get more of the map in there. That's nice. What else could I do? Well, one thing I really want to make sure you see, because it's sometimes hard to find, is notice when I hover over the text box, I get this little blue bar at the top. See that way up in the corner over here? And if I hover over the map, I get one as well. Now, if I put my mouse onto it, I can see some tools in here. Drag, configure, duplicate, delete. Okay, so when Charlie was configuring the map, you may have noticed he mentioned, oh yeah, I'll put a layer in. If I change my mind, I can come back later. Now, if you need to come back later, This little blue bar, which expands to some controls, is what you're going to look for. And in fact, this configure option will be how you go in and change some of those settings later. So if you've done something you don't like, or if you just change your mind, that's okay. You can go back in. Just remember to look for that little bar that expands into your tools. Now I want to look first at this first one, my text box over here. Drag item. What happens? Okay, so you can see as I move this box, I get different abilities. Now, if I hold it right over the map, I could put it here, stack the items, those tabs that Charlie was showing. Okay, that's how I could get a tabbed layout of this content. What happens if I put it down here? Doc is a row. Let me just release the mouse. Oh, all right. And now my divider between the two has moved. Okay, with 2, there's not too much I can do, and I preferred it back on the side. So I'm going to go ahead and grab it again and drag it back to that side position. Now, I don't need quite this much space, so for now, let's just go with that. Not perfect yet, but there's more I want to do. So that's on the way to my final product. It's picturing what I want at the end and taking the steps I need to get there. The next thing I'm going to do is remember that I usually play with things and do something I don't want to do, which means I could refresh. But wait, we've talked about this. Some of the apps auto-save for you and some don't. Dashboard is not an auto-saving application. So you can see this button up here on the right. There's a save with that familiar floppy disk icon, right? And it's blue right now. Now that means I have unsaved changes. So I'm going to make sure I click that. Okay, it's doing the saving. And once it completes, you see a quick check mark and it's back to that clear button. So now I know I've saved. If I was to refresh this page now, I would get back to this state. But you need to be careful that you've saved before you refresh when you are editing, or you will lose work. This is pretty cool, and we're talking about population. So I'm going to go ahead and add an indicator. So what an indicator is it lets you display a fact or a statistic or some information. Now, the little icons here are actually really great tips to the type of thing you'll get. So with an indicator, it shows a number with a little symbol next to it. Okay, so with an indicator, if I add one to my dashboard, I can get numbers with some symbols next to it. Maybe I want an up or down arrow. I could configure that if I'm looking at change. So I'm going to go ahead and add an indicator. And first thing I need to do is pick what layer I'm going to be reflecting information out of. Now in this map, we have a single layer, so it's pretty easy to choose which one I want to use. I'm going to use that one that Charlie made. And you can see it's spinning right now. It's generating a preview of what this indicator will look like. So as I configure over here, I get to see over here on the right what it's going to look like. Now, the first thing I want to do is change this. So I'm interested in total population. So if I'm thinking about this data, now that reminds me, dashboards, you're working with a map and adding information. If I'm doing that, I need to know the data, because the data is what's going to power each of these. So it comes back, Joseph has said this many times, be familiar with your data, right? There's only so much you can do if you have no idea what Lego pieces you have in the box, okay? So I need to know the Legos so I can pick the right things and build the right creation here. In this case, I do want to do a sum because my data, as shown by the 51, is at state level, and I just want total population. So I'm going to go ahead and choose sum. And in this case, I want 2019. Now, I could scroll through all this, or I happen to know I can just start typing, and it's going to filter that list to help me find that answer I want. Now, this comes down to me knowing my data very well. I knew the exact name I was looking for. If I had an idea that had 2019, I could have stopped there and scrolled through the choices. All right, but the key is just choosing that option. And let's go ahead and click away. Yep, a sum. All right, so that's looking good. You know, as I'm looking at this indicator, it doesn't really say what it is. There's some text here that I don't really care about. So population sums and total population do change, but not that often. I don't need to know it updated a few seconds ago. So let's go in and look at some of the indicator settings. All right, in here, I could add some text above. And let's say population. Yeah, that's a little bigger and more in the screen than I really want. I could change what comes after. For example, if I wanted to say population on the same line, I can do things there. Okay, so I can pretty much make this look how I want. But that's not what I want right now. What about a title? Maybe that would look right. Okay, we're seeing a similar control. It's some rich text. Let's go with total population. Here's an option. Last update text. Stuff at the bottom. In this dashboard, I don't need that. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it off. Now, I'm going to go ahead and say done. I think that's what I want it to look like. And I'd like to see this in the context of my dashboard to really make sure it's what I want. Okay, it's placed it. How's my layout look to you guys? What do you think, Charlie? Joseph, you happy? I don't want him to have to clean up after me, so let's make it a little better before we hand it off. All right, I'm going to take that, and just like we did before, choose from that little blue box, becomes a set of tools, and I can choose to drag and position. And in this case, no, I don't want to stack them. Let's be able to see them at the same time. Yeah, Joseph looks a little happier with that, not quite as upset with that. All right, that's pretty cool. So let's see, Charlie said I could interact with my map. Well, Charlie, in your dashboard, your numbers changed. I kind of want to get that for this dashboard. I think that would be pretty cool to be able to see the total population for my map extent. Okay, so there's a couple things I want to do. The first one, I'm going to come back in here and configure my indicator again. I'm going to make a pretty simple change, but in the general, I'm going to edit that title. And I'm going to add of states in the map extent, because I'm going to change what this value means, and I want my reader to know what this value means. So it's really important because I'm designing this piece. No one else will know what information is in this indicator unless I tell them what information is in that indicator. Okay, so now I've got that done. And the next thing I need to do is actually make this indicator respond to the map. And to do that, I'm actually going to configure the map. I'm going to say, hey, map, when you change, please go tell the indicator so that it can change too. All right, and Charlie saw this, but we didn't quite have enough to look at it. So I'm going to configure it again over to that blue bar, choose the configure tool once I've expanded those choices. And I'm just going to jump right to what I want, which is map actions. So when Charlie was here, you may have seen that it says when map extent changes. Well, that's what I want. When the map extent changes, I want something to happen. And when Charlie was showing those demo dashboards, he said that was filtering, right? We've talked about this. We know what filtering is. It's going to basically get a subset. That's exactly what I want. So when the map extent changes, I want to filter the information in my indicator. Okay, and I kind of say that in my head to make sure I'm picking the right things. Who's filtering what? Where do I want the results to appear? Okay, when map extent changes, filter the indicator. Perfect, that sounds right. I'm going to go ahead and click done. Let's try it out. Let's go zoom in. There we go. All right, so now we've got our indicator. It's responding to our map. It also has a title that's going to be a little bit more useful. And we got rid of that last updated because in this dashboard, that's just not important. All right, I'm going to go ahead. I'll use a bookmark because I like to always have it at default map extent when I save. Just one of my things. I'm going to go ahead. This is blue, which means I do need to hit save. It has not saved yet. If I was to close out right now or say, hey, Teacher Tom, I'm done. Can you hand it over to Joseph? He wouldn't even get all that work I've done on the indicator. So before I have Tom do that, I want to make sure I have saved. And then once that is done, I'm safe to say, hey, Teacher Tom, I'm ready for you.
All righty. So remember, I'm going to use my admin credentials, and I'm going to change the ownership from Kylie to Joseph.
I am so ready.
Awesome.
That was great.
All right, Joseph, you should be ready to go.
Okay, thank you all. I'm looking at the ArcGIS online organizational zone or page where all of our content is stored in the Mapping Hour account. In here, you see Kylie's dashboard right at the top. I'm looking at my groups, and she shared it, and I'm part of that group. And so I can go ahead and open that dashboard. I'm going to add two main things with you all in this next segment. I'm going to add a serial chart and then a pie chart. So as we go along, we're adding value really to our dashboard. So I'm going to go ahead just like Kylie did and say edit the dashboard. And since Teacher Tom just gave me control, I have editing ability to it. What is a serial chart? It helps you visualize one or more series of data points along an X and a Y axis. The typical charts, kinds of serial charts that you can use are bar charts you've seen. You've seen line charts probably in the past, and you can also smooth the line. You can actually have several variables. You can have a multi-series. Pretty cool. All right, here's my dashboard, exactly at the same position that Kylie left it. And I'm going to add, remember that big plus sign over in the upper right, I'm going to add a serial chart. And just like what Kylie did with you all, I've got to choose the layer. I've got enriched USA states. The first thing I want to do is I want to look at the data tab on the left side. And in here, the layer is enriched USA states. Great. Remember, filter could be powerful. We're not going to do it now, but if we wanted to filter the data in some way, we could do that here. Categories from, I want features. And the category field I want is abbreviation. This comes down to what Kylie said about knowing your data. In the table, the I part of GIS that's behind the map, there is an abbreviation, a two-letter state abbreviation in our case. Okay? Now, what kind of data do we want in here? We want the population 2019. So as Kylie was doing, I know that I can get 2019 population in here. 2019 total pop. So I can start typing and then I can choose it. Interesting. Now if I pan across I'm seeing some, but it's not quite what I want. What do I want? I want alphabetical. So sort by abbreviation. There it is right there. I know it's a field in my data. So now if I pan across here, okay, I've got Alaska, Alabama, Arkansas, etc. Wow, big spike for California. This must be Texas and New York over here. Indeed it is. Wow, look at Florida. I didn't realize that it surpassed New York in 2019, or maybe a few years before that. So I'm starting to discover things about my data that I didn't realize before. Okay. I'm kind of liking that right now. Well, if we go over here to value axis, notice that the top here, it's 50 million. It does a pretty good job of guessing what the top axis should be, but I want to tweak that a little bit. I want to make it look a little bit better. So I'm going to go to value axis. The minimum value, I want to be 0. Okay. The maximum value, and this is kind of cool actually. If you start typing in a number, notice the bars. If I made the maximum of 400, every state's got more than 4,000 people. Every state's got more than 40,000. Now I'm at 400,000. Now I'm at 4 million, and now I'm at 40 million. That's really what I want because California comes right in just slightly less in 2019 to less than 40 million. What do my colleagues think? Good? Okay. Integers only. Yes, they are all integers. There's no half a person. Okay, they're all full numbers here. Okay, that looks good. I'm liking that. I'm really liking all of this, actually. Let's do one more thing, though, with this. Let's go to the general. And as Kylie said, if you don't know what each one of these do, just play around with them. Under general here, I've got a couple of choices that might make it just a little bit better. And as Kylie did with her gauge, her total number that she put in, I'm going to edit my title. And I'm going to call it 2019 total population. And just because I can, I'm going to make the text color sort of an orangey color to match. I don't really like that. I'm going to make that text color just a little bit kind of a greenish orangey. Good enough. Okay. Because I kind of wanted to match the color of the default color. I can change those if I wanted to. Okay, that's good. What about this text that's over here in the lower right? We don't need to know every 3 minutes if the population updates. So I'm going to turn that off. Show title, yes. Show description, yes. Okay. Well, I'm liking that. So I'm going to go ahead and say done here in the lower right. And remember, I can always tweak it later. Now, as Kylie did with you all, I can hover in the upper left of my newly added item, in this case, a series chart. And I can go ahead and say, you know what? I want the position here to be, let's go ahead and and drag the item. Okay, what do I have here? I really want it to be kind of in the middle here. I don't want it stacked. What if I docked it as a row there? What do my colleagues think? Maybe widen that just a little bit. Nah, there's something a little bit better. And that is, this is so wide. What if I put it below the map? Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm getting some positive vibrations from my colleagues, and I've kind of messed up the careful work that Kylie did on the left side. So I'm going to tweak that and adjust that. Okay, that's looking good. I really like that. Okay, so we're going to save. Remember what Kylie was saying? This save button is blue or cyan colored now. And so I'm going to go ahead and save that. Anything could happen on the web, right? So you want to be able to save if it's not in a tool that's auto-saving. Let's go ahead and add one more thing to this, and that's a pie chart. So remember the plus sign, pie chart. Okay, where's my data in rich states? Okay, so I'm going to add a pie chart. And under data options now, upper left side, I've got my layer, enriched USA states. The filter, I'm not going to do anything with. We're going to keep it pretty simple. The fields now, and this again comes down to knowing your data. Category 1 field. If I start typing in, forgive my big fingers here, 2019, I want a race pie chart is what I want here. So I'm going to go ahead and start selecting the different variables that I can add in here. Now we're going to come back to why I'm choosing these in a little bit. 2019 for all of these things. Yes, so I've got categories. You can see the pie chart changing as I'm doing this. Okay. So far, so good. All right, I'm gathering variables for my pie chart. Pie chart's looking good as I'm adding this. Category 7. Okay. Yep. Now remember, you can put anything in here. So one of those things that you might have seen is, for example, the diversity index. It doesn't make any sense to add a diversity index, which goes from 0 to 100, in a pie chart that's going to show population percentages in terms of racial characteristics here. Again, it comes down to knowing your data. You can combine apples and oranges, but does that actually make sense? Okay, so let's go ahead and go to chart now because it's looking pretty good, but I can make it better. And my chart, my start angle, let's go ahead and move this and see what it does. I'm going to slide it all the way over to about 220 here. Yeah, that way the smaller sections can be on the right. And I like I'm all about trying to communicate well. So I like that. I'm not going to do anything with the inner radius because that makes the inner circle a little bit larger. Hover text as I hover over this. Yeah, I like that. Okay. Visibility percentages. It all looks good, folks, except that way at the bottom here, notice I've got it into the hundredths place in the decimal. I really don't need that much detail. So if I back it out a little bit and then say refresh here, that's a little bit better. Then let's go under slices. We're not going to do much here, but if you had something like land use, land cover, or something like that where you had, for example, pasture in green, you might want to change the pie chart so that green is your pasture wedge and it matches the map symbolization. Here, we don't need to worry about that, but know that you can do that. And then under general, let's go ahead and change the title. This comes back to knowing our data. So we're going to type in the following, and I'll explain why in a moment. Okay. And the reason why I have that is because according to the data, you may wonder, well, what about the Hispanic characteristic in the population? Okay. What about those folks? Well, they could be in any of these other wedges. Again, coming back to the data and how the census is organized and classified and how people respond to the census. Okay, so the race includes both Hispanic and non-Hispanic. That's why they're not a separate wedge in the pie chart. Okay, I'm liking all of that, folks. So I'm going to go ahead and say done here. And then I've got this big, humongous pie chart. What if I took that and positioned it between the text panel and the indicator panel? Okay, so upper left hand, drag the item, maybe right in. I don't want to stack it. What about if I put it right there? Okay, I'm liking this. I'm going to tweak this just a little bit. And gosh, one of the things that's weird though is that the pie chart is not updating. So remember what Kylie did with you all. That's a map configuration. So I have to go to the map and I want to configure the map to reflect as I zoom in on certain sections of the country. I want that pie chart to update. So map actions, add target. I also never did it for my serial chart, did I? So I need to do it here for my serial chart and for my pie chart. So I can do both of those things at once. Now, again, know your data. If I'm zoomed in now at California and Arizona, California, 39 million, Arizona, about 7 million. So I'm getting 46 million because I've got just the pieces. It doesn't mean in that box. It's both states. So again, know how to interpret your maps and your charts here. But notice how if I pan around here, the pie chart also changes, right? Yeah, so it's reflecting the different regions of the country. That's really powerful to be able to do that. I'm liking that, folks. Yes, I need to save. Let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to turn it back over to my colleagues now because I've added my series chart and my pie chart. You folks okay with that?
Hey, Joseph, can you slide the little vertical window a little bit to the west? There we go.
Okay.
I like
Charlie's
that.
using his directional phrasing. Absolutely. Okay.
I like that.
Okay, I'm going to save it again.
Yeah, now save it. Yeah. Hey, Teacher Tom, can you send it back to me? I'm the one that's supposed to be putting in the report here.
It is back to you now.
Really? Okay, so if I go ahead and share my screen and call up my browser window, that's the way that it was when I left it. So if I just refresh this, you mean it's just going to come back and be all cool and pretty? This is cool. That's what I'm looking for here. And I can go back and into my content. And there, the dashboard is back in my content area. All right. So this dashboard was really a powerful operation for looking at data. So Tom, do you want to take a look at some of those earlier dashboards that we kind of skipped over? Can we go do that?
Yeah, I think taking a look at that John Hopkins coronavirus dashboard would be great.
Here we've got, this is the live dashboard that you're looking at, and you can tell it's live. There, we get to wiggle it and move it around. And they've set it up so that we've got the countries on the left side. And if I click on the countries here, it's now updated so that the US is listed over here and the number tested are in here. And now down in this zone, in the chart zone, we're looking at the number of cases in the US. Just under 700K, there we are. And so we can see that 700,000 either in sort of an accumulated arithmetic growth or in logarithmic growth, and in terms of daily cases.
Mm-hmm.
So still pretty horrifying data to look at, still really frightening. But if I go back over here to the states and look at the administrative level 0 was the country level, level 1 is the states, and up at the top there's New York. And now when I click on New York, the rest of the US is filtered out of view, and I'm just looking at New York, and I'm seeing this is looking like, well, is this, let's see, how many cases in New York? 215,000. And so that's roughly what I'm seeing over here. And so there are lots of ways of thinking about how these data are constructed and how, oh, wow, look at that. I clicked on New York again, and now the other states returned, so that you can play around with, I can go in and explore and see the data. This is a devastating story to look at. This is lives in the balance here.
And this data, sorry, this data is today's data, right, Charlie?
This is live data today. We're recording on the 16th of April. And so you're seeing this information. So you can compare and look back at this. Now, you'll notice in the map, it has a look, wait a minute, I'm going from disaggregated to nationwide just active cases, and then incidence rate, and I'm seeing state level data, and a fatality rate. And so you can start thinking about, wow, all of this data is being analyzed. It's coming from somewhere. There's a database that this is data that Johns Hopkins has done a very good job of identifying their data information down below so that you can go work your way through this. You can see the testing rate. Think about all of the data that is being brought together here. You can't quite consume all of it all at once. Hospitalization rate. So the data set that we were looking at with the population data of the US, we had 2010 data and 2019 data. You could actually create another map of the 2010 data and lay it on top and look back and forth between 2010, 2019. Let's look at this next one. This is an intriguing display because, wow, 3,200 of these things. What, really? Yes, because you can select your state. You can go through and select the state. You can type in your county. You can choose the individual counties or the municipios in Puerto Rico, and you can go in and explore. And these are live dashboards. What do you mean live dashboards? If I look at this, this is saying average household size. If I click on this, it's taking a look at, oh, I'm tied into a whole bunch of other data back behind here because this dashboard is combined with Business Analyst. Business Analyst is an application that we're going to be looking at in episode 15. Business Analyst is a mapping tool with a great warehouse of data at its fingertips. And so the dashboard concept has been combined with Business Analyst to give people a dashboard style look at a set of characteristics that are looking at the impact of the coronavirus in that particular community. What is the situation there? What are the elements that they need to be cautious about? What can they be working on? So this whole notion of understanding data, being able to present it to people in a consumable fashion is really enormous. Tom, I want to jump back to our data for a second and take a look again at this dashboard. We did this in a collaborative fashion. Have schools had challenges working in a collaborative fashion?
Well, you can imagine having a group of 4 or 5 seventh graders trying to work on a single file at one time can be problematic.
Why?
Well, for example, if Joseph and Kylie both wanted to try to add their individual widgets to this at the same time, they could experience problems as they try to save their dashboards in a relatively similar time period. So what happens, or could happen, is if Joseph added a serial chart while Kylie was adding the indicator, Joseph may save first, and then Kylie may save her indicator numbers, both of course working on the dashboard at the same time. In this particular case, since Kylie was the last one to save with her indicator, it would save the dashboard with the map and the indicator, and it might, or rather would, ignore or remove Joseph's serial chart. So this is part of the reason why we handed off ownership of the dashboard this time, to basically lock the dashboard so that only one person could edit it at a time. It is possible, though, if a teacher is willing to brave that possibility of students overriding each other's data, to put this dashboard and the supporting map and data into a certain style of group in ArcGIS Online that would allow all the members of the group to edit the files. Now remember, you still can have the problem of overriding each other, so it requires very careful classroom management so that, for example, Joseph would not overwrite Kylie if we were to use that special group sharing model. But it is there and it is available.
Okay, so if I understood this, in the way that we did it, you're providing ownership to only one person, and only the owner can save changes. If I own it and Kylie takes it and tries to do a save, she can do a save as and create her own copy of it, but then we have two different copies, and then we run into version trouble because you can't recombine them.
True.
And if we go into that sort of everybody can save everything, everybody can edit everything, then that's a situation where we still need to be careful about who's working on which resource at what time and what sequence, but I can edit something and then you can edit the same thing. We just need to say, hey, I'm working on it now, and you stop working on it. So that might work, but I remember all of the classes that I've gone to where people are working on a project, they've been pretty chaotic, and this is the safest way to make sure that people can collaborate effectively without destroying things.
And I think that's especially true right now in April 2020, where a lot of schooling is happening remotely. So it's even more challenging to manage that careful distribution of time.
That's for sure. Okay, let's see if we can do a little review. This was all about dashboards and this powerful tool for doing interactive data analysis, and the vision of these dashboards present a huge amount of data, and to try to do that in a consumable fashion, you can't just immediately push all data out immediately in front, give people access to explore. And the reason that we're in the situation that we're all in is this terrible, terrible virus and its impact on all of us and everything that people are doing all over the world. So while we try to understand the technology, we need to keep track of that its personal impact. These are not just statistics. These are people's lives that we're looking at here. But we did have some really important concepts and skills to work with. This whole dashboard notion In a car, you've got this collection of related content. In ArcGIS Online, it's a set of content that is interactive. You don't get to monkey as much with the data in your car's dashboard. You do get to do that here, including working within the map, within the charts, going in and exploring how they interact with each other. And as Kylie and Joseph were demonstrating, you get to configure every element within that. And with great power comes, some pretty great responsibility. You've got to make those decisions. You get to make those decisions, and so you need to make those decisions. Now, how do you learn to do this? Wow. Well, you may want to go in and explore the dashboards that we were working with here. So first, here's the dashboard app where you'll see a lot of information presented about dashboards in general. And then the Johns Hopkins University dashboard about the coronavirus. And then the Esri coronavirus impact dashboard, where it's integrating the dashboard application with a bunch of data from business analysts and the data of cases. And then MCH Strategic Data, their education impact dashboard, where you can see what has it done for schools in different states and how do they relate. And there's another dashboard that you can take a look at that I included in a blog, where it's about how do you teach with this? How do you think about data, and how can you do this with something that is a little less impactful with your students? Let's take a look at what's been the impact on schools. How are people doing schools? And so there is a story map where there's a Survey 123 survey that feeds a map that feeds a dashboard, all within the story map. So there's a lot of great resources to explore. And we've come to the end of what we can do in this hour. So we're going to say thanks very much for being here, and we'll see you next time.